Hello. Today we are going to have a lessons in fixed exchange rate system. So we are going to look at the definitions of fixed exchange rate. What is fixed exchange rate? But before this, we learn about flexible exchange rate. It means that the exchange rate will increase or decrease. But in this case, we are going to focus on the fixed exchange rate. Okay, fixed exchange rate means that our currency will not increase, will not appreciate, or will not depreciate. It will remain unchanged. Okay, so if a country wants to make sure that there is no change in the exchange rate, the country must buy a country's currency with another currency. Okay, so this can cause the exchange rate to remain unchanged. Okay, so to make it clear, we are going to look at the curve for a fixed exchange rate. Okay, now we are going to look at the curve for fixed exchange rate. Okay, so now we are going to look at this curve. So you can see that the equilibrium is achieved here, where quantity demanded of US dollar is equal to quantity supplied of US dollar. So this is actually the demand for US dollar, and this is actually the supply of US dollar. So both of these curve intersects at the equilibrium of 3 ringgit. Okay, so it means that 1 US dollar is equal to 3 ringgit Malaysia. Okay, so in this case, you can see that the equilibrium quantity is Q0. So the quantity of US dollar is equal to Q0. Okay, so what we have to do next is actually suppose that the demand for US dollar increases. Okay, so this is because maybe because Malaysians prefer to buy more US goods, and therefore the demand for US dollar will increase because Malaysians demand more US goods. So this will cause the demand curve to shift to the to the right. So it will shift from D0, it will shift to D1. Okay, so you can see that the new equilibrium is here. It is not here anymore. It is going to be here. So you can see that the exchange rate will increase from 3 ringgit to 3 ringgit and 50 cents. And then quantity also will increase from Q0 to Q1. So you can see that the ringgit Malaysia depreciates, and the US dollar will appreciate from 3 ringgit to 3 ringgit and 50 cents. Why did I say that the US dollars appreciates? Because you can see that with before this, with 1 US dollar American, they can get 3 ringgit Malaysians. Now with 1 ringgit with 1 US dollar, they can get 3 ringgit and 50 cents. It means that more Malaysian ringgits can be gotten by Americans when the shift in the supply curve. Okay, when the US dollar appreciates. Okay, so you can see if the Malaysian government doesn't want the Malaysian ringgits to depreciate, or the US dollar to appreciate, so the Malaysian government will fix this exchange rate. Okay, so it means that the government will fix at 3 ringgit. Okay, 1 US dollar is equal to 3 ringgit. So you can see this is actually how the government fixed the exchange rate. Okay, now you can see when we fix at 3 ringgit, so it means that quantity demanded, this is quantity demanded, new quantity demanded, is higher than quantity supplied, and therefore there is excess demand. Okay, how much is the excess demand? So so this is Q2. Okay, so this is excess, this is quantity demanded, new quantity demanded of US dollar, and this is actually quantity supplied of US dollar. So this from Q0 to Q2 is actually the amount of excess demand for US dollar. Okay, so so what the government should do is actually, when the government to ensure that the Malaysian ringgit does not fall, the Malaysian government will buy this excess demand, okay, for US dollar. or excess demand for US dollar, or excess supply of Malaysian ringgits. Okay, so the demand for US dollar means that's the supply of Malaysian ringgits. Okay, so the government will buy these excess Malaysian ringgits, or excess demand for US dollar, so with US dollar. Okay, so the government will buy this excess supply of Malaysian ringgit with US dollar, and then thus the government will supply US dollar for Malaysian ringgits. So the US dollar supply will increase, thus shifting the supply curve from S0 to S1. Okay, so it will cause the supply curve of US dollar to shift to the right from S0 to S1. So you can see that this will cause the equilibrium to remain unchanged at the exchange rate. You can see that it will remain at 3 ringgits. Okay. So, and the next is actually when just now we discussed if the demand for US dollar increases. Now we are going to say that the demand for Ringgit Malaysia increases. So what happens to the fixed exchange rate? What the government should do, buy or sells, okay, US dollar, buy or sells US dollar. Okay, so in this case, suppose that the exchange rate is actually our original equilibrium, where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. Okay, so the exchange rate is set at 3 ringgit, so it means that 1 US dollar is equal to 3 ringgit, and then this is our equilibrium quantity, where is our equilibrium quantity is equal to Q0. Okay, so now if we say that the demand for Malaysian ringgits increases, so in this case you can see that there is no demand for Malaysian ringgit. So what curve you have to shift is actually you have to shift your supply curve of US dollar, because if you want to demand for Malaysian ringgits, so you have Americans, they need to demand. They need to supply their currencies to demand for Ringgit Malaysians, and therefore when the demand for Ringgit Malaysians increases, so it means that they need to increase their supply of US dollar. Okay, so that's why supply curve of US dollar will shift from S0 to S1, so it means that it will shift to the right. Okay, so the new equilibrium is here. Okay, so suppose that the Malaysian ringgit will appreciate, the US dollar will depreciate. So you can see that the exchange rate the exchange rate will decrease from 3 to 2 ringgit and 50. It means that the US dollar depreciates, and then the Malaysian ringgits will appreciate. Because of what? Because before this, with 1 US dollar only, Americans can have 3 ringgit. Now they can have less ringgit Malaysian ringgits. Okay, so the quantity will increase, the quantity of US dollar will increase from Q0 to Q1. So in this case, the government, suppose that the Malaysian government doesn't want the US dollar to depreciate, or the government doesn't want the Malaysian ringgits to appreciate, so the government will fix the exchange rate at 3. Okay, the original exchange rate, so at 3 ringgit, so 1 US dollar is equal to 3 ringgit. So you can see that from here to Q2, so there's excess supply of US dollar. Why do I say that there's excess supply of US dollar? Because you can see that at this exchange rate, quantity demanded is here. This is actually quantity demanded, original quantity demanded. So you can see that demand doesn't change. So therefore this is actually our quantity demanded, and then this is actually our quantity supplied. This is our new quantity supplied, right? Okay, before this our quantity supplied is here, and this is actually our new quantity supplied. So quantity supplied is higher than quantity demanded. Okay, so if you look at this curve, there's excess excess supply of US dollar. Okay, so when there's excess supply of US dollar, what the government needs to do to make sure that the Malaysian ringgit will not change, will not change. Okay, so to ensure that the Malaysian ringgit does not increase, or the Malaysian government doesn't wants to allow the US dollars to depreciate, so the Malaysian government will buy the US dollar surplus with Malaysian ringgits. So the Malaysian government will supply Malaysian ringgits to get US dollar. So the demand for US dollar will increase, and then it will shift the demand curve from D1. So it will shift to the right, okay, from D0 to D1. So thus it will cause the new equilibrium to be back to the exchange rate of RM. 1 US dollar is equal to 3 ringgit. Okay, so the exchange rate is going to remain at 3 ringgit. So 1 US dollar is equal to 3 ringgits. Okay, so this is actually how the government fixed the exchange rate. Okay, thank you.